Hi everyone. So this week we're going to be analyzing the Star Wars, the original trilogy. So the creator of Star Wars, George Lucas, he put a lot of effort into incorporating the hero's journey into all of his films, and he even went as far as to consult with Joseph Campbell himself while he was making these movies. So the hero's journey is a kind of template that most successful stories follow, whether it's intentional or unintentional, and it consists of three main parts, which is the departure, the initiation, and the return. And we can see in this trilogy that each movie kind of covers each of those steps. So a new hope is kind of the departure step. So Luke will be the hero of the trilogy, and he first received his call to adventure when he receives Leia's message through R2D2. He initially refuses the call because he must stay with his uncle and work on the farm, as he usually does. But after his uncle and aunt get killed, he accepts that he needs to go with Obi-Wan Kenobi on this kind of adventure. And Obi-Wan Kenobi serves as his supernatural aid because he teaches Luke about the Force and he gives him his father's lightsaber. The crossing of the first threshold occurs when Luke leaves Tatooine, which is his home planet, and that's where he's been all his life. That's where he was raised. And he goes into the belly of the whale pretty much throughout the rest of the story, which is when he goes to Mos Eisley throughout his rescue of Leia, when he got caught on the Imperial ship and he had to escape the garbage compactor, and when he had to destroy the Death Star. All of that encompassed the belly of the whale portion of the hero's journey. So in A New Hope, Obi Wan Kenobi serves as Luke's mentor, and he dies when in order for Luke to be able to escape so that he can fulfill his prophecy. So here we see again like the cycle of life, death, and rebirth. So Kenobi died in order for Luke to continue on with what he needed to do. And in this movie, we're introduced to the Force, which has magical elements to it because it can be used to manipulate other people and to manipulate things. And it has to be learned, it has to be taught. So like Kenobi was teaching Luke how to manipulate the Force. And cinematically, color was used in all three films, but starting with this one to differentiate between good and evil. So some examples of this are the rebels are seen green, their main color is green, and the Empire is red, so green for good and red for bad. And we also see like the main villain is Darth Vader, and he usually is, or whenever we see him, he's dressed entirely in black, so that kind of shows that he's in the dark side. And then music, again, throughout the trilogy is used to set the tone. So an example of this would be the Imperial March, which is a very popular tune from the movies, and that's often played in correlation with Darth Vader. And additionally, the same theme is played at the beginning of each movie as the opening crawl appears on the screen. So the next movie is The Empire Strikes Back, and this is the initiation stage of the hero's journey. So the Road of Trials is Luke training with Yoda and then having to go rescue Han and Leia and eventually having to escape Cloud City after fighting his father. The meeting with the goddess can be seen as Luke falling in love with Leia, even though later on they find out that they're actually siblings. Either way, though, he loves her initially in a romantic way, but then later on as a sibling. So that's the goddess in the story. And although usually it's a woman who's a temptress in these movies, the dark side would take that aspect of this because he's tempted all throughout the movies to join into the dark side and to kind of turn evil and use the force for bad. The atonement with the father. So in this movie, it is revealed to him that Darth Vader is actually his father, and then later in Return of the Jedi, Luke actually manages to bring his father back from the dark side after he gets into a fight with each other and with the Emperor, and he gets struck by lightning. His father sacrifices himself in order to save Luke. Again, continuing the cycle of life and death. In this movie, Yoda's like Luke's mentor, and with his guidance, Luke goes through a series of rituals in order to become a Jedi. Um, so to become a Jedi, there needs to be a lot of training, and Yoda even says it in the movie that this usually starts very early on in age, but he makes an exception for Luke because Obi-Wan Kenobi kind of vouches for him, and it's basically a set of rituals that ends with the person becoming a Jedi. So the next movie is the Return of the Jedi. This is the return stage of the hero's journey, and it also finishes off the initiation stage towards the beginning. So in this movie, Luke reaches his apotheosis when he becomes a Jedi, and this occurs when he's fighting his father. And after being tempted to join the dark side, he officially rejects it once and for all, and he himself states that he is now a Jedi. The ultimate boon is the destruction of the Death Star and consequently the fall of the Empire. His magic flight happens after he destroys, or rather, he needs to escape the Death Star before it's destroyed so that he doesn't get killed in the process. The rescue from without, this can be Han, Leia, Lando, and all the Ewoks that are helping him. Even though he might not know that this is even happening, they were all helping him in order to destroy the Death Star and in order to achieve, defeating the bad guys. And then at the towards the end of the trilogy, Luke has gone from being a regular farm boy to becoming a Jedi. So there you can see that he has become the master of two worlds. And then you can see his freedom to live then at the end of Return of the Jedi when you see him and his friends celebrating with the Ewoks after they've defeated the Empire, and he sees kind of the spirits of Obi-Wan Kenobi, Yoda, and his father, who's now gone back to the good side, and is Anakin Skywalker, who they're looking at him proudly, and these are his past mentors and his dad, so this kind of brings everything in full circle. So in this movie, cinematically, colors were also used again to show in this case Luke's struggle with the dark side. So he wears a lot more darker colors in this movie. That's showing like his temptation to join the dark side, and like everyone or not everyone, but like the Empire and Darth Vader sort of influencing him and trying to get him to switch sides. In this movie, Yoda dies and thus passes on the responsibility of keeping alive the Jedi teachings to Luke. And again, we see the cycle of life, death, and rebirth. Another thing to point out is that the Jedi Order is can be looked at as a religion because there are a lot of rules in it, a lot of rules that must be followed, and they have very specific beliefs on the Force and on the balance of good and evil. And the Force is kind of like if this is a religion, then the Force will kind of be like the god of the religion because that's what they worship. And you even hear people say, "May the Force be with you," is similarly to how people in Christianity say, "May the Lord be with you." So there's a lot of religious elements of the Force and the Jedi Order. So that's my analysis of the Star Wars trilogy, and see you guys next week.